Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning in, my name is Adrielle and I am currently narrating a story of my life dating back from January 2016. In the previous episode, I talked about me, packing up my stuff to leave Hidden Valley. And in this episode, y'all, I'm going to talk about my last days in Hidden Valley. This is also the last episode for season 5 of An Unlikely Story. So here it goes. It's April 1st, 2023, and I'm like, man, I'm really leaving Hidden Valley. Like, as I'm packing my stuff, I'm saying to myself, I'm really leaving this place. Now, y'all, Hidden Valley was so sentimental to me because that was the first place in Atlanta that I stayed, like, the longest. All the other places, I stayed a year. I stayed a couple months with Melissa, and I stayed a year in my first apartment in downtown. But I stayed in Hidden Valley for, at that time, it was 32 months. So almost 3 years, y'all. For almost 3 years, Hidden Valley was my home. I became so accustomed to the environment, and I got so caught up, too, with the idea of meeting Brandon in Hidden Valley. And that was another thing, too. I was telling myself, like, man, I really thought I was going to meet Brandon in Hidden Valley. Like, I guess I mixed it up. I guess, I didn't really get what God was trying to tell me back in 2020. But yeah, I remember just saying, man, I really thought that I was going to meet Brandon in Hidden Valley. So I am packing my things and I'm wondering, where am I going to? I believe I'm going to the Promised Land, but I had no idea where the Promised Land was located. I knew it was in Georgia, but I didn't know where. Now, I was saying to myself, okay, I got to plan ahead, even though I don't know what's going on at this point, y'all. I didn't know what was going on. I'm like, I got to plan ahead. I got to figure out where am I going to stay. Definitely, what's this girl's name? What's her name? Esther. Esther was like a no-no. I even told myself that if she was to call me and tell me, hey, Adrielle, you can stay with me, I was going to say no, because I knew if I stayed with her, she was going to make me feel unwanted in her apartment. And I didn't want that. So it's like, if you don't want me here, there's no point of me being here. So I was like, yeah, Esther's a no-no. Ruth was a big no-no because I stayed with her for 6 months. And also, too, y'all, Ruth was graduating from her graduate program and her parents were coming in. I didn't know when they were coming in, but I knew they were coming in before May. So I'm like, I don't think I could do that. And at the same time, too, I stayed with her for 6 months. I can't ask her. So I'm thinking, let me plan ahead. Let me figure out a place I can stay. So, like I said, I believe God was taking me to the Promised Land, but I didn't know where the Promised Land was located. Now, a little backstory. Back in 2021 and in 2022, there was this particular city in Atlanta, in Georgia. We're going to call it Bethel City. I remember saying to myself, I wouldn't mind living in Bethel City. Bethel City also had a certain type of home. We're going to call that home Bethel. So I said, man, I wouldn't mind living in Bethel City and also at Bethel home. Now, I want y'all to remember this because it comes back later on in the story. So I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind living in Bethel City or Bethel home. But at this time, y'all, I knew God wasn't taking me to Bethel City because I didn't have Bethel City money. I didn't have it. So I knew I was going to go somewhere, but I didn't know where. So because I'm a big planner, I love to plan ahead. I have to know what is going on. I have to have structure, right? I said to myself, let me start looking for places on my own. And at this time, I was looking for townhomes. Yeah, I was just in over my head about the whole situation. But I was looking for townhomes. And I was looking for townhomes in, we're going to call this city Top City, okay? Top City is very close to Perimeter, okay? Very close to Perimeter. I was looking for townhomes. Now, mind you, y'all, I didn't have a job. I didn't have anything, but I was looking for townhomes in Top City, and just this thought of Top City may be a place where I have to stay in the meantime. Okay. Top City may be a place that I have to stay. There was other cities too, 2 other cities that I believe the Lord was taking me to. So 3 cities, Top City, Middle City, and Bottom City. Okay. These top 3 cities were the cities that I believe that God was taking me to, or it could be the promised land. And that's why I have to go there. I want y'all to remember these cities because they show up during my journey for the next season of An Unlikely Story. Okay. So it's April 3rd. The movers come in to get my stuff, and packed up all my stuff, gave it to them. Now, here's the thing. I did not give them my couch. And the reason why I didn't give them my couch was because Dina had stayed on my couch when she came to visit me in 2019. 2019 spring break, right? That was when she was asking me about the whole skincare, that I didn't use it or whatever. I remember after that situation, y'all, anytime I would lay on the side that Dina stayed on my couch, I would have sleep paralysis. Yep. So I told myself whenever I move to the promised land or whatever, I'm not going to take that couch with me. So I didn't give the movers my couch. I just gave them all the other stuff. I left my couch behind, and I left some other stuff behind, the things that I was going to put in my car. So that was April 3rd, y'all. So after the movers took all my stuff, I'm sitting on the couch, and I get an email. I think I get an email and a text message from Liability Moving and Storing. Probably like 20 minutes later. It was an invoice. Y'all, they charged me $567 or something like that. Yeah. I owe them over $500, y'all. When I saw that, I'm like, these people have to be kidding me. So I reached out to them. I said, how come I owe this amount of money? I deposited $169. That was towards the first hour. They stayed for 2 hours. I owe you another $169. So everything should be $338. I was told that $169 was just a deposit, y'all. It wasn't towards the first hour. So they gave me some bogus story, y'all. They gave me some bogus story. Everything came up to be $567. I told them that, hey, I don't have that money. I only plan to give y'all for the 2 hours, which was $338. So I said, okay, can you do a payment plan? They said, yes. I said, how much can you pay today? So I think I paid, I don't think I paid the whole $338. I think I just gave them $200. But in my head, I'm like, yo, what is this? This is nonsense. And I was like, I was not told that on the phone. So in my head, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Anyways, I'm like, well, they have my stuff, so I have no choice but to eventually pay them up, and then pay my $45 every month for my storage fee. So that happened. Later on in the day, still trying to figure out, okay, where am I going to go tomorrow when I move out on the 4th? I got to go somewhere. So I decided to reach out to Ruth and let her know what was happening. Y'all, I called Ruth after we said, hey, how's it going? Whatever. I told Ruth what happened. I said, Ruth, I have to leave apartment 16 tomorrow because I got evicted from, the apartment. Have to leave tomorrow. And she was like, Adriel, why didn't you tell me? I said, I didn't want to bother you. You are finishing up the semester, you're graduating. I didn't want to bother you. She's like, Adriel, you should have told me. And she was like, did you tell Esther? I'm like, yeah, I spoke to Esther about it. Did you tell? Then she's like, wait, let me call you back. So she hangs up the phone. Probably like 15 minutes later or whatever, she calls me back. And then she says, Adriel, why didn't you say anything? And then she starts saying, did you tell this person? Did you tell Ruby? I'm like, no, I didn't tell Ruby. I think she even mentioned Melissa. She's like, did you tell Melissa? I'm like, no. So in my head, I'm like, why do I have to go around telling people that I'm getting evicted? She was like, you need to tell people. Da, 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 da. So throughout the call, she kept on saying to me, so what are you going to do? And I kept on telling her, I don't know. Like, I don't know. And to be honest, part of the reason why I wanted to tell her was that maybe, because I didn't want to ask her, y'all. I already told myself I was not going to ask Ruth if I could stay with her. I was like, hey, maybe she knows somebody that I can stay with, or maybe she knows something. Maybe I can get help from her, right? But that phone call was a lot of, you should have done this. What are you going to do? Adriel, you don't do stuff like this. This is not how you handle situations. It was a lot of, this is what you're not doing right type of call. And as she was going on and on, I was just chilled, y'all. Because to be honest, y'all, I'm the type of person that if there's nothing I can do, there's nothing I can do. Like, I can't control what happened to me, y'all. I didn't get those 3 months rental assistance. I couldn't get a job. So it gets to a point where it's like, you know what? It is what it is. Like, there's nothing I can do. All I can do is, find a way to move forward and see what I can do from there. But as far as like the whole eviction thing, it's like, there's nothing I could do. Right. So as I was talking to her, or really as she was talking to me, because she was doing most of the talking, I was just chilled. I was just mellowed. I wasn't tensed or none of that. But I remember her just saying, you need to talk to people. You need to talk to people. You need to tell them what's going on. And then I'm like, I need to talk to people. I need to tell people what's going on. That's what Esther told me the last time I spoke to her. I started thinking to myself, did she have a conversation with Esther? Did Esther go to Ruth and tell her what happened? Did Esther tell Ruth our March 31st conversation? Because I remember getting Esther vibes from Ruth while I was on the phone. Because typically, y'all, if someone is your friend and they tell you that they're getting evicted, it's like, oh my goodness, what? So what did they say? There's nothing they can do? Like, okay, do you have money? Like, they're not going to start putting like blame on you. They're not gonna make matters worse because you're already in a tight situation. They're gonna show some type of concern, like, okay, so do you have anywhere to stay? Let's figure something out. Like, did the apartment complex say that they can help you out with, just try to help out. Esther was not trying to help. And from how Ruth was talking on the phone, she was not trying to help as well, too. So I'm like, did Esther have a conversation with Ruth about my eviction? And then also I'm thinking to myself, the time that she said, oh, let me call you back, I'm thinking, did she call Esther to say, hey, Esther, Adriel just called me and told me she got evicted. Yeah, she's on the phone with me. That's what's going through my head. So it's more like, oh, you got to tell people stuff. You have to tell people stuff. You got to tell people stuff. Anyways, I bring up my YouTube channel, right? Bring up my YouTube channel like, hey, it's all going to make sense now. Like, now I'm on YouTube narrating my story from 2016 and all of that. Do you know what Ruth said to me, y'all? Ruth said, you're on YouTube telling people your business, but you can't tell your friends? I was like, what? In my head, I was like, what? And I was like, well, a lot of stuff happened to me that I couldn't understand during that time. But now it seems like everything is making sense. That's why I'm narrating on YouTube. But I'm like, why do you have an issue with me going on YouTube to tell my story? Like, honestly, the conversation was giving mini Esther, really. Because to a point where I'm thinking, did Esther kind of coach her to say the things that she said? So at this point, y'all, remember, I already said that I'm cutting, Esther off. I'm like, Ruth, you're kind of on the chopping block too. Because you're moving funny. But I'm like, hey, Ruth hasn't done anything to me per se. So, but from that conversation, y'all, it seemed like Ruth was on the chopping block. So she was like, oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, Ruth, I don't know. If I knew, I would have said what I was going to do. So anyways, we ended the conversation. I decided to call Melissa. I called Melissa and I told her what was going on. Y'all, Melissa wanted to have a heart attack. She was like, Adriel, no. Adriel, no. Like, yeah, like Melissa was worked up. She's like, Adriel, where are you going to go? Like, she was so worried. Very different from Esther and Ruth. So I told her what happened. She was very worried. She was like, hey, do you have any money? I was like, I don't have any money. I think I only had, how much money did I have after paying the invoice? Yeah, I think I only had like $50 or $60 or so. But I couldn't do anything with that as far as, getting a hotel or Airbnb or whatever. So she was asking like, hey, do you have any plans as to what you want to do? Now, the plan I had at that time was to get a hotel for a night or two so that I can figure out what I was going to do, right? I was thinking, man, if I can get a hotel for a day or two, use that day or two to figure out where I'm going to go, what I'm going to do, like to strategize, right? So I told her, and then she said, do you have money? And I'm like, I only have like $50 or so. Y'all, Melissa sent me $150. She's like, I'm sending you $150 so that you can have a place to stay, tomorrow. Then she was like, Adriel, what's going on? What's going on? So I told her about Brandon. I said, do you remember that guy that you messaged on my birthday back in 2018? And I said that, I used to follow him on social media. So basically I tell her that, God revealed to me that Brandon is my husband, all of that. And she's like, Adriel, are you serious? She's like, this is the reason why you're staying in Atlanta? I was like, yeah. She was like, Adriel. So I don't know. I remember asking her, also, by the way, when you messaged him, what did you tell him? She's like, I just told him that, you follow him, you watch his videos, and I just sent him your Snapchat and your Instagram. I said, what? I said, Melissa, you didn't tell me that. She was like, yeah. She's like, you know what? Let me go back to the message. Y'all, she went back to the message. When she asked Brandon back in 2018 to wish me happy birthday, she took a screenshot of my Instagram and my Snapchat and sent it to him. Like, oh, this is her on Instagram, this is her on Snapchat. I had no idea. Melissa told me all she did was ask him, oh, could you wish her happy birthday? That she follows you and she watches your videos. So I was like, oh my goodness. So now I know that Brandon really knew me. So anyways, I told her to send it to me. Eventually she sent it to me. It wasn't that day, it was weeks later. She sends it to me. She goes on his Instagram and she says, Adriel, this guy is married with kids. And I was like, no, he's not. Like, it's all a facade, it's fake. Like, I'm going to talk about it on my YouTube channel. And she was like, Adriel, please stop this, please. You're not thinking straight. This man is married, he has kids, and you're here in Atlanta suffering because no, Adriel, you got to think logically. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. I understood that Melissa didn't understand what I was going through. And actually, nobody really understood what I was going through except for the women in the Match Made in Heaven community. But I wasn't offended. I wasn't mad when she said those words because I knew I was going to tell my story on YouTube and everything was going to come out. But she was like, Adriel, please take care of yourself. Please reconsider. She was also telling me, hey, Adriel, call your mom to go back home. She's like, you can't be living like this. She said, Adriel, you have no place to stay. You can't be, where are you going to stay? Like, she was so, like, y'all, she was so worked up. Like, the thought of me possibly sleeping in my car was making her anxious and stuff like that. So I said, you know what, like, Melissa, I appreciate the money, everything. I'm going to keep you updated as to, what's going on and what's going to happen. So that was what happened April 4th, y'all. April 4th, I woke up, I cleaned up a little bit, swept, got all my stuff. I placed it in the car, the stuff that I was taking in my car, put it in my car. I left my couch behind. I'm like, listen, let Hidden Valley deal with that. Before leaving, y'all, I was looking for my spare key. I'm like, man, I can't find this spare key. They're going to ask for it. They probably may charge me. I was looking all over for this spare key. I couldn't find it. I said, you know what? I got to go because I had to leave before 11:59. So 11:50 a.m. I was in my car. I drove to the leasing office. I told the leasing consultant. Now, the leasing consultant I spoke to, she was new. So I told her that I was moving out. She told me I had to fill out a form. I filled out the form and I placed that one key that I had on the form, and I left. Y'all, I left Hidden Valley. And that is the end of season 5, An Unlikely Story. So, yeah, y'all, that's the end. Now, before I get into season 6, I do want to talk about something that stood out in the month of March. So in the month of March, I remember, getting the news that I had to leave. I would have thoughts of, man, why am I still suffering because of Brandon? Just this thought of, man, I'm suffering because of him. Like, I'm tired of suffering. I just want to have stability. I just want to be financially stable. I just want to rest. I just want to have comfort. And this is what the Lord had pointed out to me. He pointed out a scripture, and it's John 10, verse 14 to 16. And it says, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. And I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen. I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. So the Lord was letting me know, like, hey, there's other people that need to come into the sheepfold. Like, the reason why you're enduring all the stuff you're enduring, I'm using you to bring Brandon into the sheepfold. He is my sheep as well, but he's outside. He's that one. The 99 is here, but he's that one, and he needs to come over here. So I'm using you to bring him into the sheepfold. So this is your purpose. This is your Jesus' purpose, to bring people into the kingdom of God. And I'm starting you off with your future spouse. Okay, Adriel? So just the Lord giving me that idea of, listen, Brandon needs to come into the sheepfold, and I'm using you to bring him into the kingdom of God. So that was something that the Lord brought to me. And I also shared that on the Match Made in Heaven Facebook community. And that also helped some of the other women too, that was going through the journey. Because y'all, we were all going through it. We were all going through it with our prodigals. It was just taking us through it, and it was just a lot. And we were just so tired of the whole, process, the whole stance. So yeah, is there anything else I want to talk about? Also too, I need to talk about this. In the month of March, I remember thinking about, man, me leaving Hidden Valley to go to the Promised Land. I'm leaving the wilderness, basically. I'm leaving the wilderness, and I am crossing the Jordan River. I remember just saying that, like, this transition to the Promised Land, I'm crossing the Jordan River. I remember having devotion one night. I opened up my Bible, and it lands at Joshua 3, and I see crossing the Jordan. I'm like, yep, this is it. This is it. Yep, I'm crossing the Jordan River. And that is the title of season 6 of An Unlikely Story, y'all. So yes, next season's title is Crossing Jordan Lap 1. Okay? So yes, I'm going to talk about everything that happened after I left Hidden Valley, y'all. I honestly did not expect to go through the things that I went through. I didn't anticipate to go through the things that I went through. But it was a lot. It was a lot. I will say this. All the stuff I went through in the wilderness, Atlanta season, my first season of An Unlikely Story, all of that trained me to endure season 6. It did. Yeah. So here's the thing too. I do want to say this. Before I narrate season 6, y'all, there is a story time that I need to share. This is very important. I was supposed to share this story time in one of the September 2022 episodes, but I wanted to get the Brandon and Caitlin stuff out of the way. Next episode, I'm going to share a story time about a character that wasn't who they portrayed themselves to be. Okay, they portrayed themselves to be one way. There were subtle signs that God was letting me know that this person is not who they say they are. And then something big happened, and I'm like, oh yeah, this person got to go. Okay, so I'm going to share that story time. That is going to be a very long story time. I may put that in 2 to 3 parts. Also, too, I want to go and revisit some of the dreams that I had back in 2018, 2019, and talk about their interpretation as well. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Oklahoma Thunder Day Party dream interpretation yet, because I got the revelation during Crossing Jordan Lap 1. Okay? So if you're liking an unlikely story, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please also share my videos. And until next time, y'all. Bye.